Deepak, Mr. Dr. Deepak Chopra, I just want to say thank you again so much.
Thanks for having me.
For spending this time with me, but more so with our virtual audience. I'm so looking forward to everything that you have to share with them. And as you and I were talking beforehand, I'm going to do my absolute best to stay present in what is one of the most surreal moments of my life.
Oh, good.
To be sitting with you.
So thank you for doing this.
I'm going to brag on you for a second, if that's okay. Okay, wonderful. So, as I mentioned, you're a doctor, you're a husband, you're a father, you're the founder of the Chopra Foundation. I believe that's the co-founder, or you're the founder of the Chopra Foundation and the co-founder of the Chopra Center for Wellness. You've written over 85 books and are working on another, I believe. Many have hit the New York Times bestseller list. You have one that I just read last night on the flight here called The Healing Self, which was phenomenal. Thank you for that, as well as one of my personal favorites is The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success. You're an adjunct professor at 2 universities. You're faculty at Disney's Imagineering Institute. You're a contributing writer to Oprah.com, The Huffington Post, and many other places. And from what I can tell so far in our brief interactions, just a wonderful man.
So thank you.
Thank you for being a part of this. So everything you have accomplished are more than what most people would dream of or imagine in their list of goals and achievements. How do you do that and also be such a grounded person who's centered on your relationship with yourself?
First of all, I'm not a goal-oriented person. I've never actually planned anything in my life. All I've done is share any insights that I have which I think are worth sharing. That's all. It's like somebody singing in the bathroom and there are people who are listening and some like the song. So that's my life. Trained as a physician and then as a neuroendocrinologist, started to see the connection between what happens in our mind and consciousness and how that's reflected in our body and our experiences of the world. And then it just happened. I don't know.
So I've heard that described before as flow. How would you define that, and what would you say to folks, many of whom are watching today would consider themselves goal-oriented and driven and carry that as a badge of honor, in fact? So what would be your thought or response to that type of mindset?
Well, I think every day I do have a practice. It's part of a longer practice, but I do a little reflection, and the reflection always includes questions like, who am I? What do I want? How can I serve? What is my purpose? What am I grateful for? And then I think during the day my actions and behavior are influenced by those questions. So I don't actually have to have any goals.
There are so many nuggets I would love to dive into there, the first of which is, who am I? We are told so many things about who we are and who we aren't from the outside and how to define oneself or ourselves. Yet so many of us struggle with inner voices and inner critics or limiting beliefs. How do you define who you are, and how can others better understand and tap into that for themselves?
So this is a very important question. Who am I? Most people think they are a body-mind. But the body-mind is an activity that you experience. Your body was once the body of an embryo, or an infant, or a toddler, or a teenager, this one. So if you say, I'm my body, then there's a bit of a problem there. Which one? The body is not a noun, it's a verb. It's constantly changing. And actually the word body is a human construct for an experience. And if you look at the experience, it's just sense perceptions. Sensation, image, feeling, thought, sound, taste, smell. The rest is a human construct. This is a body. But there's no such thing actually, because it's constantly shifting. It's a constantly shifting pattern of sensations. And they keep changing. So there's no such thing as a fixed body. There's no statue of marble that you can liken your body to. It's not an anatomical structure. The same thing holds true for the mind. If you say, I'm my mind, obviously, hopefully you don't have the same mind you had as a kid. The mind is constantly expanding its understanding of thought, insight, intuition, creativity, imagination, on and on. So it's another changing experience. Therefore, any identity you give yourself, I'm Deepak, I'm Darrah, I'm Darrah, any identity you give yourself is provisional. There's no substantiality to it. The only identity that is not provisional is the awareness in which all these identities are arising and subsiding. We call that I, right? I was a baby, I was a toddler, I was a teenager, I like Chinese food, I went to the movies, I'm doing this interview. So I is the only invariant in all these changing experiences, including that of the body and the mind. The experiences are so transient that they're ungraspable. So if I asked you what happened to your childhood, you'd say it's gone. I asked you to think of it, it's like a flickering dream. But that's also true of yesterday. If I asked you what happened to yesterday, it's gone. And if I asked you to think of it, it's a flickering dream. Or what happened to the moment we met a few minutes ago, right now it's a flickering dream. Okay, so, or even by the time people grasp what I'm saying, it's over. So that's why Wittgenstein said, our life is a dream, we are asleep, but once in a while we wake up enough to know that we're dreaming. And the Buddha said, this lifetime of ours is transient as autumn clouds. To watch the birth and death of beings is like looking at the movements of a dance. A lifetime is like a flash of lightning in the sky, rushing by like a torrent down a steep mountain. So what do we wake up to when we realize that the whole thing is a dream, including this and this? These are dream characters in the bigger dream. Then all that's left is the awareness in which the dream is happening, or presence, or being, or that which we call I am that. And so when we shift our identity to the only identity that's real, because it's the invariant, it's the constant in all other identities, then you discover something very amazing. Awareness is a field of infinite possibilities. Awareness is also inseparable from everything that exists. It's the common ground of every experience. Not only in the human species, but all organisms, all living beings, all living organisms who have different experiences. What does it feel like to be a bat? What is the experience of a snake that navigates through the experience of infrared radiation? What is the experience of an insect with multiple eyes? Unknowable. But the common ground has to be awareness. Without awareness, there can't be any experience. So experiences are innumerable. We say this is New York City, this is the world is space-time and matter, and we have a mind, body, and there's a universe. That's a human construct for a mode of knowing and experience in that which we call human consciousness, which is only one aspect of a consciousness which is the common ground of experience in all living species. So consciousness is all knowers, all modes of knowing and all things known. There's no such thing as a fixed universe. That's our collective, currently scientific story. Whatever we want to call it, dark matter, space-time, quantum entanglement, Big Bang, that's a human story in consciousness. It's not a crocodile story or a dolphin story. If we want to really understand who am I, then we have to transcend to that level of identity where anything is possible, because whatever you call everyday reality is a human story.
So how do we go from the question of the concepts and constructs of how we've humanized things or made boxes around to help us understand or contextualize, and getting to this place of infinite potentiality?
Well, through ultimately a silent mind. The great Sufi poet Rumi said, God's language is silence, everything else is poor translation. So you have to get to that level and into the habit of being the witnessing awareness in which experience arises and subsides in what we call now. And now is not a moment in time. Nobody's seen a moment called now show up, leave, and then followed by another moment that shows up, leaves. Those are human constructs too. Now is the lucid dream we are having right now.
Feels like it.
It's a lucid dream. Everything else is a flickering dream. This is a lucid dream, but this will be a flickering dream in 10 seconds. This too will be a flickering dream. So what you have to do is go to that level of being. Now, these days, mindfulness has become a very popular word, and so I'm not going to criticize the word, although it's a little misleading. Mindfulness means a full mind. But actually what people mean when they use that word is the awareness of experience, whether it's a mental experience or a perceptual experience. So I would say mindful awareness probably is a more accurate word, to be mindfully aware of your body, to be or that which humans call a body, or mindfully aware of this experience we are having right now, or to be mindfully aware of any of the senses, sound, touch, sight, taste, smell, or mindfully aware of your mental space, your thoughts, your images that are coming across the screen of your consciousness and disappearing, or to be mindfully aware of the web of relationship. Right now we are having a meaningful, I hope, relationship, but this is a web of complexity of relationships, because you have innumerable relationships, I too, and in a direct or indirect way, they're all participating in this web of relationship. To be mindfully aware of being aware. So, these days there's a word that's slowly creeping up into the spiritual literature or the mindful awareness literature. It's called metacognition. To be aware of experience as it's happening, and then also to be aware of the choices as you're making them, but even more importantly, to be aware of being aware. That is the key to creating the story you want.
It's interesting because it certainly is this depth of presence to be aware of being aware.
That's all that is, presence.
And so you talked about silence and quieting of the mind. And we live in a time where everything is inundating us, asking us for the opposite. They're saying, be busy, it's a badge of honor. Feel overwhelmed, it means that you're doing the right thing. Can you help our audience begin to understand how to extract themselves from that and find silence?
You can stop any time in the midst of any activity. You don't need even to close your eyes, and you can ask yourself, am I aware? And then be aware of that which is having this experience. You can live there. You don't have to even get out of there. Now, but if that's your internal reference point, if that's your true identity, it's the only invariant in every changing experience. And if you live from there, and if you act from there, and if you think from there, and if you feel from there, then life takes care of itself. Because intention that arises from this depth of being organizes its own fulfillment, what people call synchronicity, good luck, state of grace. If they're religious, they say God is on my side. It doesn't matter, meaningful coincidence. My life has been a reflection of all of the above. It just happens.
The coincidence word is so fascinating to me, as is the word synchronicities. Can you go into a little more depth on what one should do in those moments. Like I personally like to take stock of synchronistic moments because I don't believe that they're accidents, and I think they're to be noted. What's the power of that, and what can we learn from those moments?
So just look at the word coincidence. Many incidents happening simultaneously, organized around an intention that you've had, either consciously or subconsciously. So you're thinking of your mother, she calls you on the phone. You're thinking of chocolate ice cream, and somebody shows up and brings you the chocolate ice cream. People have these experiences all the time, and they're surprised. But if you're grounded in this state of possibility and being, and you understand the inseparability of all that exists, then synchronicity, also another interesting word. Chronos means time, synchronos, synchronized in time. So it should be an experience all the time. But it's not, because it's overshadowed by your ego identity, which is kind of saying, that's me, when in fact what is the real me is the awareness, in which even the ego identity is another changing experience. So the more we ground ourselves in this deeper level of identity, and the more subtle our intentions are. You know, people work very hard with their intentions, visualize, or, you know, kind of use what they call willpower, and they get frustrated and they get anxious and everything goes wrong, because they're not focusing on the process or the mechanics of what in spiritual traditions are called manifestations, whether, you know, it's good luck or whatever. They're so attached to the outcome that they're not in the process. And the process is very simple. You know, the subtler levels of mental activity are the more powerful levels. The subtler levels. Not even linguistic thought, you know, you ask somebody, you think in English or French or Hindi. I don't think in language, I think in terms of subtle intention. And the more subtle your intention, the more your willingness to let go of it, the more you're being anchored in that stillness, then that's flow or grace or coincidence or whatever. Meaningful coincidence is a very interesting phenomenon. First of all, it takes people by surprise till they get used to it. Then they say, I'm lucky. But coincidences are a chain of events that are acausally linked, which means this event doesn't cause this event. They all come together around meaning and purpose and intention, once the ground of your existence is the real ground of existence, which is not body and mind or the world, but the awareness in which body and mind and the world are an ongoing process.
So
I hope this is not too complicated.
I think this is too complicated for most of us, but it's beautifully too complicated because it sparks us to dive deeper and understand more, I think, and challenge some of the constructs like you've talked about that we have been living within. So I'm curious, you talk about something being below linguistics, which leads me to think about intuition. So what is the role of intuition as perhaps a guiding GPS or otherwise? And separately, what's the role of our emotions?
Okay, so I think of intuition as a mode of intelligence that goes beyond linear cause-effect, rational explanations. Intuition is more contextual as a form of intelligence, more relational, it's more holistic. It goes beyond cause-effect relationships, which are very linear and also actually very superficial. So intuition is contextual, relational, holistic. It doesn't have a win-lose orientation. In a sense, you're eavesdropping on a bigger mind that is beyond your individual rational thought. And I've always felt over the years that intuition is tapping into what has been called the subconscious mind, which actually is your own body. Your body is your conscious mind, subconscious mind. So when people say, I have a gut feeling about such and such, that's intuition. Or my heart says, Blaise Pascal said, the heart has reasons that reason does not know. So, I used to always know that in my life, but now science is telling us that your gut microbiome, which is all those bacteria in our gut, they produce more serotonin than your brain. That they produce the same peptides like opiates, serotonin, oxytocin, dopamine, which by the way are human constructs for, again, modes of understanding and experience. The heart has a neural network. So, your mind is not here. Here it just speaks in English with an Indian accent. But it's everywhere. Here, it's out here. It pervades the cosmos. And so that's what intuition is, tapping into that depth of being. And you can start with your own body. You can ask a question of your body and feel the sensations in your body, and sooner or later you'll learn how to decipher them. I knew this great person, Mr. Ibuka in Japan. He's the founder of Sony Corporation, and he used to be a mythical figure in Japan. He's credited with earning Sony the first $1 trillion. And I met him when he was in his late 80s, and he was known for making always the right decisions. And so I asked him, how do you make right decisions all the time? And he said, I ask myself a question: should I do this? Should I do that? Should I invest here? Then I drink this herbal tea, and then I feel my body. And if it feels good, I do it. If it gives me indigestion, I don't do it. So he was tapping into this body intelligence, which is the subconscious mind.
So powerful.
And it was pretty simple, actually, what he was saying.
So I'm curious, you're talking about making trillions, and it leads me to ask a question I think so many people might want to know is, what's the role of money? What is the money as a manifestation?
Well, money is a human construct, like latitude is a human construct, like the United States is a human construct, like Forbes magazine is a human construct, but useful construct. So money originally, and even today, says I owe you. Money is based on debt and trust. So money is a symbol of, first of all, our collective values. And that's reflected in how we spend money. It also reflected in how we earn money. It's also reflected in what money means to us. I notice a lot of people, and they're usually very wealthy people, who are so obsessed with money that it becomes their identity. And then they make money in order to make more money. And then when they make that extra money, they use that money to make more money. That's what derivatives are in financial world. They're basically instruments to make money, but if you don't know how to enjoy that money, if you can't eat the dollars, or you can't eat your bank account, if you don't, it's like trying to eat the menu in a restaurant. If you don't know what that money means to you, or if it's your sense of identity, then you're a poor person. See, there are only two kind of people who think of money all the time, and for whom money is a source of stress: the extremely rich and the extremely poor. Because the extremely poor can't think of anything other than money, and a lot of people, not all, of the extremely rich can only think of money all the time. So I know people personally who look at the stock market, and if they're worth billions of dollars, then their value of their stock every day fluctuates by a few $1 million, and that determines everything after 4 o'clock. Their mood, whether they're happy, whether they have sex with their wife, whether they go out, whether they're kind or in a good mood, is that ticker, as they call it. That's a miserable life, right? But if you can make money and use it to improve your quality of life and the quality of life that of people you care about, or the quality of life in the world, then you're a rich person. So money is a state of consciousness. Abundance is a state of consciousness, not a dollar bill. There are people who have lots of dollar bills, but they're miserable.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. It reminds me of one of the things I read in your book yesterday, and The Healing Self, about the happiness culture that we've perpetuated of I'll be happy when, and always chasing after this carrot that it's never enough.
If you're not happy right this second, you'll never be happy.
That's
you should be happy and grateful that you exist and that you know that you exist.
So you also talked about something I love, which is emotional set points and the idea of happiness. Is happiness the goal?
There are two ways of answering this. The first way is, yes, happiness is the goal of all other goals. I want a good relationship. Why? It'll make me happy. I want to make money. Why? It'll make me happy. I want to be in good health. Why? It'll make me happy. But we go around all these circuitous ways of being happy, and it's an elusive goal then. But if you recognize that joy is your essential state before the goal arises, you're happy. When the goal arises, there's a moment of discontent, which is good. It's kind of what I call divine discontent, because it spurs you to activity and creativity and movement. But at the end of the goal, you're back to where you started from, which was you were happy to begin with.
Yeah.
So once you recognize that that's your essential state, which is usually not called happiness but joy, which you see in any child unless it's wet or hungry, the child is happy and joyful and smiling and looking everywhere with curiosity and wonder and literally bubbling with joy. That's our essential state.
Wonderful. So I want to shift us to meditation.
Yeah, and you also talked about positive emotions.
Yes.
So, positive emotion is not cultivating a mood. If you cultivate a mood, you're going to be exasperatingly positive, and people are going to tire of you. Okay, and you are going to be stressed as well. So it's not cultivating a mood, but it's paying attention to things like love and compassion and joy and empathy. And negative emotions start with fear, but can lead to anger, hostility, guilt, shame, depression. So yes, when we are focusing on what we really want, and those are the things we want: love and joy and compassion and equanimity. That definitely is the background in all good luck and coincidence and all of that.
Thank you for adding that.
Yeah.
So let's move to meditation. Why is that a tool that some should consider, and why have you dedicated so much of your life to it, as a practitioner, to it?
Well, first, there are lots of kinds of meditation. So to me, meditation is self-reflection, self-inquiry. Who am I? What do I want? Meditation is also mindful awareness of experience, mindful awareness of choices. And then there is what we call just being aware of being aware. That's a form of meditation. Then there are many disciplines in the world, from dervish dancing to mantra meditation to chanting to ways of exploring movement and breath and yoga. These are all forms of meditation. And what all of them do, directly or indirectly, is take you to the source of all experience, which is the source of thought, which is the source of perception, which is the source of everything, relationship. So meditation takes you to that place where all possibilities exist. It's the immeasurable potential for all that was, all that is, all that will ever be.
If I haven't heard a more compelling argument, then that would be it.
Yeah, and then on a biological level, as the mind starts to go to its source, which is pure consciousness, then the body also starts to quieten. And when the body starts to quieten, it starts to self-regulate, which we call homeostasis, which is healing.
So one of the biggest questions or most pervasive questions I got from our audience was those who either don't know how to start a seated meditation practice and or those who say, I can't quiet my mind, which is exactly why they should probably consider doing one of these practices. So can you give any feedback or advice to folks who struggle to get started or to stick with a practice?
Yeah, first of all, trying to quieten your mind or saying trying to get rid of a thought is also a thought, so
Right.
it doesn't work. Okay. Trying to quiet the mind is an activity of the mind. So you shouldn't even try to go there. I say to a lot of people, start with something very simple. Start your day with a little reflection, which we spoke about. Who am I? What do I want? Or set an intention, like I want a joyful, energetic body. And then everything you do revolves around that. Or a loving, compassionate heart, or a quiet mind, or just lightness of being. Those are very simple ways to start. Now, there are literally thousands of types of meditations. In our online offerings on the internet with Oprah's help.
I've been doing it every day.
Okay, so we've taught now 6 million people to meditate.
It's amazing.
Free of charge, and you can still go to our site.
Yeah, I was going to plug it for you. Thank you for sharing that.
chopracentermeditation.com, and you can avail yourself of that offering. We also have a website called Jio, J-I-Y-O, Jio.com, that offers meditation, including VR, virtual reality meditations, binaural beats. That's many kinds. But I would say, if nothing, sit quietly, maybe after a little reflection, and observe your breath without manipulating it, with your eyes closed, or just feel the sensations in your body without judging them for 5 minutes, and then build it up to, say, 20 minutes, and you're on your way.
I love the comment about non-judgment,
Yeah.
which is often the hardest part, that we think, oh man, all those minutes went by and I couldn't stop thinking, but that's the practice, right?
That's the practice, and the goal is not to stop thinking. The goal is to just be, and thoughts arise, they subside. They're like clouds in the sky, they come and go.
Yeah, if I understand correctly, it's like anything that you can have an intention, but then you let go and let it be what it will.
Yeah, just be.
So you very kindly offered to lead us in a guided practice today. Would now be a good time to do that?
Sure.
Wonderful. How would be best for us to get everyone in the internet world to join us?
Okay, so sit comfortably wherever you are. And since you're watching this, obviously I can't tell you to close your eyes. Okay, but then
They can hear us.
No, but you can do it with your eyes open. But the goal here is to keep your eyes unfocused, what is called soft eyes. Okay, so if it helps, be aware of the space between you and any object around you. Okay, so just be aware of the space, or have soft eyes, and start to observe your breath. And notice that the breath is just a sensation that arises in your awareness, that you experience in your awareness, and then that subsides in your awareness. You can't hold on to your breath. If you try to, you'll suffocate. This is the nature of all experience. Any sensation you experience arises, subsides. You can't hold on to it. Also, it's the nature of any perception, a sound, even the sound of my voice. Right now, it's an arising and a subsiding. So just by observing the breath, you understand that The breath is a sensation in you. The only constant is the observer. You could now shift your awareness to sensations in the body. And notice there also an arising and a subsiding. You could shift your awareness to an image in your mind. Think of somebody you love, or a beautiful sunset, or a candle in a dark room. And notice it too is an arising and subsiding. You can't hold on to it. It just comes, goes. The only constant is you, the observer. Okay, now start to repeat your full name to yourself. I am Deepak Chopra. I am Darrah
Brustein.
Brustein. I am Darrah Brustein. I am Mary Smith. And now invite into your awareness all the things that are bothering you right now, all your stresses and concerns, whatever they are, money, job, relationships, well-being, so many things happening, that which we call concerns and stresses, let them arise. Notice they too are a flickering, arising and subsiding in your own awareness. But invite them. Now drop your last name. So just repeat the first name. I am Darrah. I am Deepak. I am Joan. I am John. I am David. Now invite in your awareness any experience from your childhood. Good, bad, indifferent, doesn't matter. Just flashing images across the screen of your consciousness. And now drop your first name and just use the phrase I am without attaching it to a name or an identity or an experience. Just I am. And now if you want, you can replace the I am with the mantra aham. Aham, which just is the vibration of existence. I exist. Aham. Aham. Now let the mantra go. Just let the mantra go and settle, rest in awareness, rest in being. Just rest in existence. No definitions, no labels, no description, no judgment, just be. This is who you are, just being. Before a thought arises, there's being. Before a memory arises, being. Any experience, so just be, rest in being. Being has no race, no religion, no gender, no age. Being is not 5 years old, 65 years old. Timeless being. rest in the stillness of being. And now just to come out of the meditation, once again feel the sensations in your body, or go back to your breath. Take a few seconds, and you're done. So, and one can stay in this place anytime. You don't have to, you can come out of it if you feel annoyed, but then go back to it.
Thank you for that gift, Deepak.
Thank you.
As we conclude, do you have any final thoughts or comments for our audience?
Yeah, take it easy.
Perfect. Perfectly said. Well, thank you again.
Thank you.
So much.
Thank you very much.